If you go to Christianity, you tell the poorest of the poor, the creator of the universe died for you so that you can have eternal life. You're going to have motivations to be a moral person, to return love to the creator that gave to you, and to actually do what he said, like be fruitful and multiply.
When you look to the prominent speakers on the right, Ashley St. Clair is getting absolutely annihilated by the Christian conservatives, and Elon, despite Elon helping Donald Trump win. They're getting absolutely annihilated for Elon for having all these kids, for Ashley for having a kid with Elon, for having kids out of wedlock. And then you look at most of the prominent, not all, obviously not, I'm not going to give Trump credit for being a great, traditionally moral man or whatever. He has good kids though. But you take a look at these typical conservative individuals you find, they have kids. They talk about protecting children. They talk about going to church, having communal values. You don't see that reflected in the atheists. In fact, and again, I'm not saying all atheists. I'm not saying all Christians. There are people work here, obviously, atheists or agnostic, and they're good friends and they're good moral people. But it's not. It seems to be tendencies in the inverse direction. That is, the Christian conservative commentators tend to have kids, go to church, teach responsibility, meritocracy, and things like this. And prominent atheists tend to say things like, don't have family, take whatever you want, wake up, masturbate, die alone. And you end up seeing now, predominantly among the left, individuals who are, and they're all atheist agnostic, advocating for giving children pornography in schools, drag queen story hour, and things that are destructive and amoral. These are tendencies, not necessarily quantified in any hard data, I'll admit.
Well, I mean, let's just look at the culture that comes out of these different ideas of like a secular atheist view. For people that are in academia or the high levels of media, they have a purpose in society. But you tell the common man, hey, you're only going to live a good 70 years and you'll die, so just have as much fun. The common man is left with basically hedonism as his only fulfilling desire. Whereas if you go to Christianity, you tell the poorest of the poor, the creator of the universe died for you so that you can have eternal life. You're going to have motivations to be a moral person, to return love to the creator that gave to you, and to actually do what he said, like be fruitful and multiply, for example.
Which is weird because the most statistically likely place that you're going to get sexually assaulted is at a church.
And that has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
No. It's almost like Christian values isn't preventing kids from getting raped.
And once again, you're not making an argument.
No, there is true. 30% of all rape cases for children under the age of 18 happen church-related. 30%. And
I'm going to respond to that by saying blah, 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 because the point we are making is that in prominent pop culture, in politics, there's a tendency among the right Christian conservatives not to be raping children, and there's a tendency among the left to.
But they keep doing it. It's weird.
It's weird that
the
you're not addressing
Christians
the
keep
argument
raping
we're
children.
making, and you're saying, "Hey, look at this instance of bad people doing bad things." I agree. Let's talk about the tendencies.
When it comes to like the church abusing children, which I agree over historically, it seems to have. I think it's whenever you put a lot of kids in an area like daycare or something, there's just going to be a tendency for a lot of those kids to get abused because that's where kids are congregating. And for thousands of years, it was at church.
It's correlative, not causative. Anna Salter talks about this in her book
today.
Predators.
But hold on,
today, 31%.
Again, you are changing the subject because you didn't have an answer.
No, your subject was Christian morals going away because of atheism. But in Christian circles, they're still raping children today.
So let's pause. And once again, I will say you are not actually addressing what we were just talking about.
I'm literally addressing it right now. You're saying that atheists don't have moral systems.
They don't.
But neither do Christians.
Christians do.
What is a Christian moral system? Find me in the Bible where I can find a Christian moral system.
10 Commandments.
That people. Can you find me outside the Bible where those exist? Because they exist in the 42 laws of Ma'at. They exist in
the 10 Commandments. Do not exist in the 42 laws of Ma'at. That's a big conspiracy.
Almost every single commandment that you'll find in the 10 exists in every single culture.
I didn't say they didn't.
This isn't unique to Christianity.
I didn't say it was. Once again, you're not.
The 10th commandment says not to covet your neighbor's slave.
Atheists and agnostics don't have that moral structure.
No, we don't have a
Christians.
We don't have a God-given moral structure. It's a subjective moral structure.
In fact, American atheists actually have a loose Christian moral structure, and that's a fact. That's why, absolutely, that's what we're talking about with cut stem ideology or whatever, or politics or whatever. I'm sorry, Dennis Prager, for getting the name wrong every single time. Bill Maher's a great example. The man who believes in Blackstone's formulation, who believes in free speech, but can't tell you where it came from. That doesn't exist in China. Those values don't exist in China. They have a completely different moral tradition. Now, back to the point we were making, which is, why is there a tendency among conservative Christians to believe in responsibility, meritocracy, and planting trees whose shade you know you will never sit beneath? And among atheists and agnostics in the United States, there's a tendency to say, wake up, do drugs, and masturbate, and give children porn.
I'd love to see that data.
It's Everywhere you go in the news,
setting a cultural phenomenon.
We have a cultural phenomenon where Emma Vigeland of the Majority Report came on this show and said that it is good that teachers, she believes, were giving books about scat to children.
I don't think
and
it's
I'm like,
that-
how do you have the Majority Report, which I think is the 48th biggest live show on the internet, advocating for giving children kink porn? And how is it that in schools across this country, it is atheists and agnostics that have been giving children kink porn and teaching them how to bang each other up the butt? And in fact, in Chicago, a teacher gave children a book that explained to them how to use Grindr, 12-year-olds, to have anonymous gay sex with adult men. The parents called the police on her. I understand. That's an anecdote. I understand the church also had abuse. The tendency among prominent conservative personalities supporting Donald Trump, supporting the Republican Party, or whatever it may be, as of the past decade or so, leans towards, whoa, we need to do things that create a better society. The other side, you have people like Chelsea Handler coming out and saying, I wake up, I smoke pot, I masturbate, and I go to bed. There is a destructive element associated with atheists and agnostics and a protective and creative element associated with the right. It's not that Christians are perfect people. There's a lot of evil people. Donald Trump is not a guy who got married and then had a handful of kids with one woman. He had a bunch of baby mamas. With all due respect, somehow, not trying to be a dick, he raised a bunch of really good kids. The Trump family seems to be pretty great. Still, not very virtuous. Elon Musk, working with Donald Trump, not very virtuous. But on the left, you have the prominent individuals are directly advocating for things that are destructive to society in any capacity.
So are prominent Christians and have been doing it for a long time. You're just saying that.
Which is why I'm saying the tendency today.
You're saying there are prominent atheists who have views that we don't like, but I can do the same thing.
Not that we don't like.
Prominent Christians.
Not that we don't like.
That are doing things that are destructive.
That are right. Which is why I said there's a tendency. If you are a Trump supporting personality, say you're Ashley St. Clair, and then you hook up with Elon Musk and have a baby out of wedlock, she is getting mercilessly attacked. Mercilessly. I mean, they're leaking messages. Former friends are posting her screenshots of chats they've had. It is wrong. What you did is wrong. They're saying you can't do this. It's destructive. It's bad. You have done something wrong. Liberals, tending to be atheists or otherwise, are saying, who cares? Who cares if you have a dad? Who cares? Party, do drugs, don't have children, do whatever. It is a fact that those things lead to higher crime. This is one of the principal reasons Trump, who people thought would never win, ended up winning.
Where's the data point that correlates to that?
To which point?
That secularism leads to higher crime.
I have studies here.
As it turned out, there's lots of studies on it.
And the point I'm bringing up is over the past 10 years, over the past 30 years, the policies implemented in major cities, almost every major city, run by Democrats, many of whom they're not completely atheist, but overwhelmingly these cities are the places where they're bubbling up atheism, where the prominent personalities, celebrities or otherwise, are anti-Christian, where the universities are anti-Christian. These are where the policies are getting implemented, where we see prisoners are being let out, violent criminals are being let to reoffend. An axe murder was just released. It became a huge story. We're not seeing that rate of crime per capita in, or even in its entirety, in Christian, Republican-led cities.
I think the point you're trying to make is that we see a different cultural idea. When Christians do horrible things all the time, absolutely. No one is denying that. Atheists do horrible things. No one's denying that. We're seeing different in terms of mentalities in these two groups. One is promoting a culture of destructiveness, is what you're trying to say, and one is promoting a culture that is pro-sociality. When conservatives do something bad, they get attacked by their own group saying, stop doing this, it's destructive. Meanwhile, Bill Maher and people on the left are not attacking. They're saying that's just normal hedonism. It's great, wonderful. And I think that the point that you're trying to make is like we see two different cultural phenomenons coming out, and you're trying to ask what the difference is.
It is a tendency among the Christian right, and it's largely Christian, to say, hey, you shouldn't be morbidly obese. Stop eating garbage, start exercising, and live a better life. Be virtuous, be fruitful, and multiply.
But they're more obese. Statistically.
In rural areas, however, what I'm talking about is the cultural phenomenon of body positivity. So absolutely, there are people who are amoral or bad. In fact, it's actually it's an interesting bell curve. The right is more likely to be fit and more likely to be fat than liberals.
Not according to the data points I've looked at.
Well, then look them up again.
The conservative right wing, especially the Christian right wing, are way more obese in almost every country.
Which is not what I said. Okay, once again, it's a bell curve. People on the right, and particularly Christian conservatives, are more likely to be fit and more likely to be fat. That means it's the extreme ends, right? Bell curve. So you will find that This was a big talking point in 2018 or so when the corporate press kept running these stories saying working out will make you right wing. And it is true that people who tend to exercise more and more start to become more right wing, and people who are already right wing, more conservative with moral traditional values, are more likely to exercise. But then you also do, it is true, find that there are more morbidly obese people at the same time, meaning it's a wider bell curve than liberals. On the liberal side, you will find they advocate for and they cherish and they advertise morbid obesity to the point where they have the body positivity campaigns that conservatives will roast and make fun of. So there are lapsed moral individuals on the right, 100%, and there is social advocacy for destructive behaviors on the left. Or you could take a look at the transgender issue as well. Mm-hmm. Advocating for children to sterilize themselves or for parents to sterilize their children is not a Christian phenomenon.
And that's also, again, going to cause decreased fertility rates for people on the left, for the atheist, agnostic side of things. Meanwhile, on the Christian side, you have high fertility rates, replacement population, preventing mass migration of Islam coming in with their Sharia law, and then ruining a lot of traditionally Christian countries with horrible
honestly
values.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Culture War podcast. We're live every Friday, 10 a.m. to noon, so subscribe and come hang out.